A California mom just got the okay to give her 12-year-old son gender-affirming care, okay? Or we like to call it
Child, are we allowed? Are we that far?
Well, no,
it's child genital mutilation.
Mutilation, and it's what is it called? Chemical castration. They're giving this kid hormone blocking everything. It's going against nature. So, a California judge dealt a devastating blow to a Texas father, and this story's been going on. Connor mentioned this. It's for years they've been going to stop his ex-wife from allowing their preteen son, 12 years old, who identifies as a girl named Luna, to receive gender-affirming care. The father of two, Jeff Younger, he's 59 years old, announced on X that the loss of parental rights over his twin sons after Los Angeles Supreme Court, I have to say this guy's name, Judge Mark Juhas, close to Judas.
Close to Judas.
Yeah, great name.
Juhas.
Yeah. Granted his estranged pediatrician ex-wife, Ann Gurgulas, the authority to castrate his 12-year-old son, James. Can you go to the tweet?
This is in Texas?
No, they moved to California.
Oh,
We're going to get
gotcha,
into that.
Gotcha,
So here's his student. Look how sad this is. This is his tweet. I lost all parental rights to my son. Goodbye, boys. Perhaps we will meet when you are adults. California Judge Juhas gave my ex-wife authority to castrate my son, James. All contact with my boys has been supervised. I won't do that. I send letters and gifts to my sons. My ex is not required to give them to my boys. I cannot post pictures of my sons. Let my story be a cautionary one for you young men. Fathers have no rights to their children. Do not enter the family law system. So this battle's been going on since 2008.
Wow.
When she sought a restraining order against the husband to block him from entering the twins' school or telling other parents or students that the gender of Luna is different than a girl named Luna.
Did you say 2018? The story started?
2018. It made
so then that's to say then this started when the kid was actually
6 and 5.
Six,
5 years old.
6.
The mother has been wanting this since it was 5, and I'm going to get
Well, she started trying to
Evil.
transition him when he was 3.
What the?
And there was the first video that went viral with this. I believe he uploaded it with the title something to the effect of "Mommy Says I'm a Girl." He was separating from his wife because she kept trying to transition him, and in the midst of the divorce, he's with the kid, and he's asking his 3-year-old son, "Are you a girl?" And he says, "Yes." And he says, "How do you know you're a girl?" Because mommy tells me I'm a girl.
Oh my God!
What does mommy make you? Mommy has me wear dresses. Mommy, has me play with dolls and stuff. And you go back and look, and the mom said that she decided her son was a girl because he was distracted by a shiny purse at Target one time and wanted a girl's toy and a Happy Meal. And that was enough
Dude,
for the mom to start trying to chemically castrate.
I was going to make the joke that she named the kid Luna, and I was going to say, what a lunatic, and now I'm actually thinking it might not be a joke. This might be a way of her. And
she changed the name
I understand
without
that.
any alert to the father.
No, for sure. But this is just, I'm convinced this is just a way of an angry wife getting back at her husband by using
How
the kid as a
insane
tool.
is that? Using the kid as a freaking weapon of like a war to piss him off. Mind you, she's a pediatrician. She knows what the hell she's doing, bro. Like that drives me insane. Since the kid was 3 years old, so you're not getting along with your husband. That's fine, but dude, don't.
You talk about child abuse. That's probably worse than punching your child in the face every day. His entire life.
1,000%, Brandon. This kid with the long-term effects we don't know
heal
yet.
from a punch in the face. You say that as a pediatrician. When I used to be a lawyer for a long time, like 13 years, we always knew you didn't rent out properties to lawyers or doctors, because doctors, despite being professionals, they're a certain type of personality. I don't know what you call like cluster B. There's a type of personality. They tend to be them. The fact that she's a doctor, a pediatrician no less, doesn't make her smarter or more responsible. No. And typically they have characters that are controlling and metastasize into this type of behavior.
Bro, that's and you nailed it, Connor. It's been happening since the kid was really, really young. And she said he behaved, the father said the son behaved like a boy when they were together, but when he was with the mother's influence was the one that did this. So Texas courts initially granted both parents joint custody in 2019. However, Anne won sole custody of their children in 2021 with the caveat that she must seek the father's consent for medical procedures related to James' gender dysphoria. That all changed in 2022 when she relocated with James and the twin brother Jew to California to take advantage of their state trans sanctuary law that allows parents to pursue gender-affirming care for their transgender child without legal interference from the state. I mean,
it's horrifying.
So Younger petitioned the Supreme Court in Texas to have it, but it went into effect, but the court denied the request. And as of this year, 25 states have banned medical treatments on children What the hell are the rest of you doing, you idiots, who identify as transgender? And a challenge to one of those states headed to the Supreme Court next month. President Trump vowed to take action on the issue at a campaign event in August, saying, on day one, this is Trump, on day one, I will sign an executive order instructing every federal agency to cease the promotion of sex and gender transition at any age. They're not going to do it anymore. Like, can we just address one thing? Is California hell on earth? Let's.
Yeah.
It's a modern day Gomorrah to some
I
extent.
100% agree.
And by the way, like, to highlight the point, I know that the father was saying this is a loss of parental rights, and to some extent, he's right. There's been a loss of paternal rights in the family law system for a long time. I don't view this as a parental right issue in terms of loss. I view this as being something that no parent should be allowed to consent to do to a child, period. The fact that he couldn't stop it is a symptom of the problem. The fact that she's allowed to do it is the problem. Had both of them said, yeah, we want to do this, a doctor should still not do it.
Still.
A court should still not authorize.
Yeah, still, and that's, to me, that's dude. That's jail time. That's, God forbid this kid grows up and kills himself. I want that mother to go to prison for the rest of her life. I say a life for life, because who knows what that kid's going to become, especially after the father is saying she's the one making him do it. When he's around me, he wants to be a boy. Dude, this is going to happen. This is, by the way, this is happening. That kid is doomed for the rest of his life, and it's a he.
It's only been relatively recently that doctors and experts have been forced to admit that the puberty blockers don't just suspend and pause puberty, because you can't pause something that has a limited window to happen. And now they finally recognize, yeah, it doesn't pause puberty. It stunts penis growth. It stunts the ability to have an orgasm later on. It can render you sterile. It can impact the density of your bones and mess you up for the rest of your life. So it's not a pause on anything. It's actual child genital mutilation. The mother is sick in the head. There's no question about it. But it's the entire system that is sufficiently sick to allow the mother to abuse the child like this.
You know, it's one of the most evil things is that they promote the hell out of this, but then people who regret doing it, like the people who came on the podcast a year ago, there's this whole community of thousands of people who regret doing it or
They transition, now they want to go back?
Yeah, but they're shamed and almost shadow banned. Like, nobody pays attention to that community.
They're called detransitioners, and it's one of the most heartbreaking things. I never read about detransitioners before, but when we did the transgender podcast, we had people who there was a woman named Tiffany Justice who was fighting on behalf of stopping children from going through these surgeries, and then we had a person, a transgender woman. She was woman, went to male, back to woman. And the hardest part of that interview, where she talked about how this community embraces you, they celebrate you, you're you're part of us, you're not alone, we have your back. And then the second you go, hey, I actually prefer the way I was, that community turns on them.
Yeah.
And then they ostracize them, and they're the villains. How dare you go back to the way that you were naturally born? No, this is your identity now.
Wow.
And there's actually a Reddit forum. If you're ever out there, it's some of the most heartbreaking things to read. But when we had these people on the podcast, they were talking about this subreddit. I went and I found it. It's a detransitioning subreddit where it's story after story after story of these people who are in their early 20s who went through the gender-affirming care as teens, and now their lives are ruined, and they have no support because their family disowned them when they decided to make this transition. This new family adopted them because you're identifying with us. And then when they turned their back on that community and went back to the way God made them, all of a sudden they were evil. And it's so heartbreaking to read these people. Now they're alone. They have no one. They're stuck and they can't have children. They regret the choices they have, and they have no emotional support network.
Well,
awful.
it's how you know it's a cult too, because in certain cases it can be the family wrote them off, but part of ingratiating yourself to the trans community is that they will encourage you to cut ties with anyone who does not actively affirm you. So maybe the family is responsible for that broken relationship, but in many cases, it's the person themselves who deliberately alienated themselves and was hostile to their family because their new friends, their new community were telling them, hey, you don't need them. They won't affirm you. They're holding you back. They're dead naming you. Come be with us. And then as soon as they decide, hey, I don't want that, they're cut out. Well, and you know, there's one particular story I saw of a woman who was transitioning to a man, ended up not going through all the way, but she had already had a double mastectomy. And even after years of, you know, hormone treatment as well, she was still able to get pregnant. She was with a man, they had a baby, she gave birth, and she was posting her story of, they handed me my child in the hospital, and I had nothing but scar tissue on my chest. I was not able to nurse my newborn baby because when I was 16, a doctor said, yeah, we'll definitely go through with the mastectomy for you because you know what you want at 16. And it's heartbreaking to see these stories.
And the way that this cult starts, Vinny, is the propaganda, right? So just yesterday, the Fox News, but many outlets reported this, including the New York Times. The headline from Fox News was, transgender activists urge supporters not to vilify critics after Trump win after seeing a dip in public support. Right now, transgender activists say the movement's confrontational approach is leading to a lack of public support, and allies must refrain from attacking critics if they wish to win the goodwill of the American people. So now even the transgender community is turning on the transgender community and saying, hey, this in-your-face transgender agenda is working actually to the detriment of what we're trying to get happen.
Yeah.
So you guys have to revamp this entire approach.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, then Brandon, I'll come to you. Like at the end of the day, and how many times do we talk about this? I hate the you talk any opinion either than their agenda. You're transphobic.
Yeah.
That word phobic. I was talking to Jake about it. The only phobia we have is arachnophobia. Like people are afraid of spiders. Nobody's afraid of these freaking people. Okay, it's you can as an adult go do, and I'm being genuine when I say this, guys. Go do whatever the hell you want. You could dress up, play make-believe, chop up your crotch. That's all you're an adult, okay? Stop this obsession, because it is an obsession with children. You guys have an obsession with kids. There's one guy on TikTok, he talks like this. The white guy.
Jeffrey Marsh.
Jeffrey Marsh. Let me explain something to you. The scariest person I've seen online is this guy. He's always like, I just want your kids. It's like, bro, leave them alone. You look perverted. You sound perverted, and you're trying, because you can't multiply, you're trying to take our kids. You're not going to get it, bro. Stop. Everything's backfiring. And Rob, real quick question, then I'll go to you, Rob. Your kid comes home, and he's like, hey, Dad, I've been learning this in school, and I kind of want to be I want to be a girl. You have to sit down and have this conversation, right?
Well, I was proactive. My son doesn't go to a normal high school. He goes to a charter film school, so even gayer. That's what I told him. I go, hey, I want you to be aware that high school is going to be weird for you because it's the arts. And a lot, like, he did a film festival.
Yeah.
And it was over the summer, and it was kids from the school. And we went and we watched the films. And the films were brilliantly done. But I got to be honest, like 40% of the kids were gay. And I have no problem with that.
Because they like to dance, Rob.
When I was a kid, we had two. And they were brothers, and they both had girlfriends all through high school. Like, it wasn't, and I don't have a problem with gay people. It's fine. If that's the way you want to live, great. I've noticed an uptick in it.
Yeah.
And I noticed that when I looked. So one day we had the conversation. I go, buddy, what do you think about, like, transgenderism? And he was like, that's weird. And I was like, you're my son. I know. But he said there are 2 or 3 kids at his school that are transgender. And I said, and how does that make you feel? And he's like, I got to be honest, it's a little weird for me, so I don't really interact with them. And I went, I've got no problem with that. The day he comes home and he goes, hey, I'm thinking that I was born as a lady on the inside. I go, okay, no, and we're going to send you to military school. They'll hammer that shit right out. Yeah. You'll push up that shit out.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm glad you brought up propaganda and uptick, because I came across a few weeks ago. You guys remember that group I brought up called the Tavistock Institute?
Yeah.
That was like the propaganda center.
Yeah.
So it turns out for the last almost decade, they were the pioneers of this transgender movement. They were doing low-key transgender surgeries and even got in trouble for it because of how blatant they were. And they were formulating and crafting the words, transphobic, like exclusivity or LGBT stuff, like all the keywords they used to attack people. They were crafting all of that. So they've been disseminating this stuff because they're like the headquarters for propaganda and what like to push out in the mainstream media. So I think that most like first world countries in the West get their marching orders from them, because that's how it's been for the last 50 or so years with like the rock and roll movement and like the rebellious movement. So this is like the new version of the Beatles, like the new version of like the way to rebel against like what the mainstream is. So because there's no other reason why it goes from 2% to 20% in just a few generations.
It's a social contagion. It's a known phenomenon, and there's not a question about it. The issue, like you say, like, and I say this in the most loving way possible, do whatever you want. And live however you want. The issue becomes, set aside the children. I mean, everyone has always wanted to abuse children. They're the easiest vulnerable target.
Yeah.
It's when someone says, you have to identify me by my reality. And I look at them and I say, I'm not identifying anybody in this world except for by my reality.
Yes.
And my reality will be based in biology. Yours can be whatever you want. The second you start telling me what to identify you as based on your reality and not mine, that's when you've crossed the line from your rights into the imposition of violating mine and my own thoughts.
Yep.
When it comes to the children, or it's a cult in the truest sense. It's got the bad religious practices of religion implemented into a cult. They go after the kids when they're vulnerable. They get them to alienate themselves from their friends and family.
Yep.
And the second they deviate from the cult, they get excommunicated.
Yep.
And that's the way it works. And it needs to be identified as a cult, treated like a cult. And even when they say we got to soften up our discourse so that the public doesn't get pissed with us, they're not saying it for any practical purpose except for how to infiltrate and promote their cult in a way that they can trick people into thinking it's innocuous.
And back to the
Gay
Jeff-
people is different than this too. Like traditional gay people is very different than the extreme thing we're seeing. Because think about it, like 20 years ago, it was illegal in every state to get married as a gay person, but now it's legal in every state to get married as a gay person. But think about like this new breed or hybrid weird thing that like the hyper trans people are coming in and ruining the whole movement, and they're taking all the like the momentum out of it. Like they're like labeling gay people as that, but traditional gay people aren't that. They're not crazy.
Not just that. It's fundamentally homophobic, period. Like to take a gay kid and say you're actually a girl is fundamentally homophobic.
Right.
They're doing more to eradicate homosexuals than anybody else out there. And so they need to understand that and need to be called out for it.
Yeah.
The transgender movement of today is fundamentally homophobic.
And to go to that, at the regular, and I have regular gay friends, and I mean regular, they're not just dancing in the street, like because there's gay guys like, hey, how's it going? This is my husband. Like but the ones, listen, when I see a white guy, that's like, yes, bitch. Why do all white gay guys act like black crazy, like wild black girls? It's like, bro, you're freaking being racist, and you're being like. Like think about it. It's completely racist. Like, hey bitch, you're not a black girl. You're a dorky white guy from Wisconsin, bro. Go bang your boyfriend and just stop this act. And here's the thing: when we talk about California, is this just a place? We talked about it. Homelessness is ridiculous. The taxes are insane. Illegals. You can vote with no ID. Now there's trans sanctuaries. Like, bro, if Satan had a hometown, it would be California, and Gavin Newsom would be the spawn.
Well, that's
Satan.
You know what it is
that's
with
the
them?
problem with having these different standards for every state. Like on an issue like transgenderism, particularly for kids, but possibly just as a concept at a whole, you need a federal standard because it's ridiculous that you can cross state lines and it's a completely different standard on this. Where
What if went the opposite way though? If they like Newsom got into office for president,
exactly, and there's
federal sanctuary law.
yeah, you create federal sanctuary laws. There's a problem because then it's a question of the merits of the actual bill itself. But something like in Texas you're not allowed to do it. Okay, so she just stole the kids and took them to California where she's able to do whatever she wants. Part of the reason Jeff Younger couldn't get his kids back is because the Texas court said, no, she's not going to transition the kids because during your divorce settlement, she agreed that she wouldn't. Okay, but she moved them to California, clearly showing that her plan is to do that. But nobody would listen to that argument. So the fact that you can just go across...
Well, the court system, I think, is the bigger problem.
Yeah, the court system is a huge issue. And as Jeff said in his tweet, it shows why... Like, if there was a clear-cut case for men getting screwed by the family court system, this would be it. I don't normally stand on, the government should take people's kids away from them except in extreme situations. But if a woman is attempting to transition her 3-year-old, she should never see that kid again.
So if you like this clip, click right here. And if you want to see more like it, click right here. Stay angry, Patriots.